Can you see my screen? Yeah, awesome. Okay, yeah, thank you all for joining. Today's session is really important to get an idea of the new updates. I know we already had our info session last, I think about 2 months ago, but there are a few themes that I wanted to introduce for the solution challenge and new requirement updates. So let's get started. So first off, I'm just gonna give you a little brief description of what the Solution Challenge is, if this is your first time. So the Solution Challenge is an annual contest among DSE communities around the world where students build solutions for community problems using one or more Google products or platforms. And we'll get into like the requirements of that a little later. So this year, DSE has sort of started to implement an annual theme, which I'm really excited about. So again, we'll get into this in the next slides. So before that, something I want to emphasize is why should you be interested? Because this is such an amazing opportunity. Number one, it'll help you put your skills to good use by building something that genuinely benefits your community and the real world. And that's something that's personally more important for me. And number two, you'll be able to develop project management skills, and you'll be able to work on a project from start to finish, along with developing teamworking and communication skills. And of course, we're gonna have prizes and more through DSE. So like I mentioned, we have a theme for our project this year, and it is to solve for one of the United Nations 17 Sustainable Development Goals. And these goals include ending hunger, poverty, climate change, gender inequality, etc. And I'm gonna try playing this video real quick. It sort of sums up all of the 17 goals. Can you all see my screen still? Awesome. Yeah. So yeah, that's it. So I would recommend taking a look at the UN page, and I'm going to drop the link to that in the chat first. And before I continue, do you guys have any questions so far? Okay, I'm gonna continue. So how I would recommend approaching this is, first of all, take a look at the page and then go through just browse around and say if you find a goal that interests you, look into that, and then think of something specific that you'd like to implement. For example, let's say if I wanted to work on gender equality, more specifically, I wanted to work on helping out working moms so that they didn't have to take time off. Let's say if they're new moms, because that's where some of the equality gap comes into play. So could create and that can help them find babysitters with several different shifts. And my goal would be for it to be very affordable. So for it to be $3 an hour, and on the same app we can take donations, and that way we can compensate the babysitters. So I hope that gives you an idea of like what how you can approach it. Do you have any questions regarding like the UN 17 goals? And Danny, do you have anything else to add on that?
Yeah, so if I could, one of the things that I think is really important to start with here, right, is going to these our website, the 17 UN Sustainable Goals here. When you look at these goals, what I want you to do is to not just hastily pick one, right? I want you to look at all of them, click on some of the infographics, and look at the detail that is shown, right? On the website, what you'll see is that the UN rather, does a really good job of explaining how the world was approaching solving this problem before COVID, and then kind of the stats with the new world that we find ourselves in more of a virtual capacity, right? So go into it with open eyes, get creative, and I would really encourage y'all to look at like 2 or 3 of these main 17 themes, right? And then from there, brainstorm a couple ideas for each, and then share with each other, right? When you start brainstorming, one of the things that happens is it's also going to motivate your fellow community members to look at those ideas and go, oh wow, that's a really good idea. We could do maybe something similar, but more specific for climate action, right? So don't limit yourself to just picking one and that's it, right? I really want y'all to look at building ideas for 3, maybe 4 of these larger themes, right? And I want you to remember that this is supposed to be fun, right? So find one of these themes that you connect to on a like spiritual, emotional, personal level, because it's going to help you when it comes to building this project.
Yeah, and I'd like to add, I love like last year it was building a project that benefits your local community, and that's pretty powerful. But I'm really excited about this because it's a global thing, and since DSC is a global organization, it sort of fits a little better, especially in like 2020, 2021. This is amazing. So let's go on to prizes. So first of all participants will receive, and Danny, correct me if I'm wrong, receive a Google Developers digital badge and an official certificate of participation. And from there, there are like thousands of projects that will be submitted. Again, it's a global competition. And the top 50 will receive customized mentorship from Google experts to improve their solutions and tweak it. So that'll be around like summerish, I guess. And then from there, the top 10 finalists will receive additional mentorship and Google Swag, a 1-year subscription to Plural site. Sorry, I think this is like a learning platform for software development and other skills like that. And
It is, yeah. It's
yeah,
very similar to like Coursera, Quick Labs, some of these other type of educational websites you may have heard of in the past. Plural Site is just one that we've vetted and we see a lot of good things in. So that's where that license will come from.
awesome. And additionally, an opportunity to showcase your solution to Googlers and developers all around the world on Demo Day, which is sometime around August, I want to say. And lastly, the top 3 winners will receive a Chromebook on top of that, and a coffee chat with the Google executive, and have the opportunity to be a feature on the Google Developers blog. So that's pretty exciting. And let's get into the judging criterias. So as you can see, impact of your solution and the technology itself is going to be looked at. And as for impact, they're going to look to see if your project is focused on development goals, if you effectively address the challenge and you plan for future extensions for your solution, And you've tested your solution with real users, implemented that user feedback, and implemented all the technological components needed to solve the challenge. And you explain what Google Tech you use and include guidance on how to run your code. You submit a demo video, which I think it should be around 2 minutes long. 2 minutes, awesome. Showing user how the user would interact with the solution and highlight how Google Tech was implemented, and also mention the value of the specific technology that you used. Finally, your team has made an effective product and technical decisions for their solution. I know that was a lot, but I wanted to go through that to answer any questions you may have.
Sorry, I was still muted, y'all. So if I could, I do want to just pause here for a moment and kind of double click on some of these things for y'all, because this is where Solution Challenge is going to be different from other challenges you've probably, participated in the past, right? So Solution Challenge is not going to just be something where, we want you to string together a prototype similar to hackathons, right? What we want you to do is really look at this as an opportunity to pull together a full, working product demo to showcase the solution that you're building, right? This is going to, really help y'all if you look at the judging criteria early on when you are thinking of ideas, right? Because when we look at where you're getting the majority of your points here, most of it, and I can't say all of it, does not come from your actual coding, right? It doesn't come from like how complicated or how simplistic, your uh, you know technology implementation is. We're looking for, did you start with that same problem? And at the end of the day, did you solve that problem and keep the end users in mind, right? So really take the time to read through these, have the judging criteria up as you are looking at the different themes from the UN website, right? Make sure you can answer all of these questions before moving forward with a project, right? And the other thing I want to mention here is just briefly under technology on part 4, right? This is really important because last year with Solution Challenge, we saw a lot of students ineffectively used Google products, right? And overcomplicated their solution, more so than they had to be, right? So when you're looking at bringing in, one or more of Google's technologies, don't just pick one for the sake of having it, right? Really think about the way, this tool from Google would be utilized in your project and make sure it's the best choice for use of Google's product, okay? Any other questions, comments, concerns here? Happy to answer.
So it seems like there's a lot of evidence collection throughout the process of when you're actually implementing the solution. So do you recommend any sort of a flow we follow, like keeping like evidence in mind when we are doing our project? Is there like when it comes to like collecting evidence, for example, um, it be the solution being iterated upon based on user feedback, right? So for in that case specifically, what evidence would a team provide?
Yeah, so that's a great question. This is going to be outlined more in depth in the terms and conditions on the Solution Challenge website, right? It's going to outline specifically the type of content we're looking for from y'all. But just to help here, I'll kind of summarize it for you. What we're really looking for is, you having an opportunity to connect with those end users. That needs to be represented somewhere in change of your specific solution, right? So, for instance, if you're working on a scheduling app and the feedback from users was that it was clunky on Android and you couldn't confirm an appointment, right? We want to see the change you made to your code to make it to where, they could book an appointment through the Android app, right? So that's more what we're looking for. The other thing I would say here as well is a lot of the evidence solution was iterated based upon user feedback can be addressed in your 2-minute demo video, right? Talking about, where you started from, building the problem, talk about how, the testing phase brought in new features for you to add, and then here's the end product, right? Towards the end of the video. So definitely a few points for you to focus in on there. But I'd highly recommend every single person on this call go to our Solution Challenge website, click the terms and conditions, and just quickly read through it so you can have the specific directions there.
Right. So that will also have specifically what counts as Google technology and what does not. Right. So okay, cool. Thank you.
Correct. Yeah. So to summarize it, it's basically GCP. It could be any Google tool, API, things of that nature, right?
The framework. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So there's quite a bit you can choose from. That's kind of why we just say one or more, but at minimum one.
Cool. Thank you.
Of course.
Does anyone have any other questions before we move on? Okay.
Yes, sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so what was the theme of last year?
Last year, it was just building a solution to solve any local issue in your community. So, for example, since we live in Florida, I know some people were talking about building a hurricane tracking app. Yeah, things like that.
And I mean, like, do we get to see who won?
You do. Actually, I'd recommend looking at watch the demo day video from last year, which showcases the top 10 projects. I'm gonna drop that link below towards the end of the event, but if you go to the main website, you can find it on there. And that'll give you an idea of like what they sort of look at, even though it is a different theme this year.
Yeah.
So moving. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Just one quick clarification. Just because you tie to one of the 17, UN goals, doesn't mean you can't make it applicable to your local community as well, right? So one of the things that I want to encourage y'all to do here is, I know it's a global challenge. Feel free to make it fit, your local community, if that makes building the solution easier and more, impactful for y'all.
That's a good point. So let's go over the timeline. So first off, well, you guys are already part of the DSC club. So your next step would be registering. I'm going to drop the link in a little bit. Registering through the official website, along with signing up on our our local Google Sheet, so that we can form groups. You guys can have each other's contact and get started, and that the eBoard's sort of aware of who's participating and who's not. Again, that comes under forming a team, and after that, you're going to have to select a UN sustainable goal to work on, and identify a solution. Like I said, find something specific that you would like to work on, and like Danny mentioned, you can incorporate one of the goals into your local community. After that, we have a ton of resources that we're going to get into, sort of self-paced resources that can help you develop your front end and back end skills. Next off, you can start again, like building your solution, test your solution and get user feedback, and implement the feedback that you received. After that, we'll move on to the submissions and judging. You're going to have to record a demo video that's 2 minutes long, and submit it by March 31st. And then, like I mentioned before, there's going to be top 50, that'll be announced around May. Top 50 will receive deep mentoring through May to June. And then from there, the top 10 finalists will be announced in July. And then finally, the top 3 winners will be announced in August. So when you register, you're going to receive an email that will show you how to join our Parthian community. So like it says, it connects 500,000 students and 100 plus Google developers, and you could drop in your questions or anything that you need help with along the way, and other students and Google mentors will be able to answer that questions and help you out. Danny, do you want to add a little bit more? I don't know too much.
No, totally fine. So one of the things that we did last year that we saw was very beneficial for students was having an opportunity and connection to some of our other Google community leaders, right? So one of the things we're doubling down on this year is that online virtual mentorship for y'all. So this platform, the Parthian community, is going to be an opportunity for you to connect with Google developer experts who have specific expert level technology skills on really all sorts of different Google tech, right? So anything you're having trouble with, if you're looking maybe for someone to help critique some of your ideas, if you're looking for someone to come in and have like a workshop and talk about, maybe TensorFlow or Flutter or, anything to help you with your projects, this is a great community for you to turn to, right? Think of this as your ace in the hole for when you're looking to get like kind of confirmation as to how to implement something, or if this idea is something to kind of really focus in on, right? This is an amazing community, and I will say there's very fast response rates, and it'll really help you connect your network with some amazing people outside of Developer Student Club, right? All of these mentors, all of the Googlers who are in this community, they're amazing and they really do want to help. So we won't force you to join this community, but I would highly recommend it, especially if you're going to maybe try to implement a new form of Google technology you haven't leveraged too much in the past.
Thank you, Danny. Another thing I forgot to mention was if you already have groups, you still have to register individually. And Danny, is there something in the registration form where you can like add your group members on it, or can they do that later?
No, that's a great question. Right now, the registration is open for individuals, right? We'll have team registrations come through later once we get to kind of those submission points. What we're looking for during the registration period now is kind of just to get y'all in our system, if you will, right? To kind of understand more about the types of technologies you would like to use, so we can get you connected with exciting events to help teach that technology or support you as you implement it. So go ahead and go register. You don't have to have like your project ready to go or even the idea. Maybe just some different technologies you want to work on. So get out there, go register, share it with your friends, and yeah, let's have some fun.
So moving on, let's talk about a way that you can approach your solution effectively. So these videos I find are very helpful. I'd recommend you guys take a look at it. But just to briefly summarize what they talk about is, first, identify a problem you'd like to work with instead of thinking of a technology that you'd like to work with and then incorporating that and finding like an issue based on that, if that makes sense. So identify a problem like we discussed earlier, finding that UN goal or goals you'd like to work with, and something specific you'd like to tackle. And next, think of a solution to this problem. How could you solve this problem? Forget about the technology at this point. And then after that, start building something and building an interface to implement your solution. And then after that, finally, now that you know what you to work you'd like to build, you can decide on how you'd like to build it, what kind of technology you'd like to use. So like I mentioned, the key takeaway here is focusing on the problem and the solution versus the technology, because technology is only a tool. So again, I'd recommend taking a look at these. So what's next? What can you do right now? Number one, check out the Solution Challenge content on the website and register so you get access to Parthenon. And also sign up on the Google Sheet. I'm going to drop the link to that in a little bit. So you can form a group, communicate with them, discuss a problem that you'd like to work on, and then select a team lead. And this team lead is sort of going to be in contact with me and the e-board a little more, just so that we're able to manage the project a little bit more effectively. Yeah, and join our Slack, because we'll be using that to communicate from here on out. And we'll be making announcements and things directly and contacting your groups directly. So does anyone have any questions?
Before we get to questions, if I could, I just want to quickly plug something. So from the Google developer end, right, one of the things we're also going to do here is we're going to have a series of workshops, right, to help you get connected with speakers, understand some new and emerging concepts that are upcoming, right? We're even going to host a few events, for students who maybe have not built a project this magnitude before. So think of it not as a hackathon, but a way to hack solution challenge and to build an amazing product. So don't fret if this is more than you've done in the past. Not only are you going to have amazing support from your local DSC chapter, Google Developers has your back, right? Will help connect you with amazing events to uncover new technologies to implement, or help you gain some feedback from the community. So don't worry if you haven't built a project before. Don't worry if you don't have any good ideas. We are here to help. And with that, y'all, ask your questions. If you have an idea about one of the themes you want to throw out there, feel free. At this point, it's y'all's show. So let us know what we can do to help.
Yeah, I'm going to stop recording. I'm going to stay back and answer any questions that you'll have.